What if one of Hollywood's most unforgettable love stories didn't end where we thought it did? Imagine this 35 years after Pretty Woman became a cultural phenomenon. The story of Vivian Ward and Edward Lewis might finally be getting a sequel. But is Netflix really about to take one of the most cherished romantic comedies of all time and bring it back for a new generation? Or is this just another Hollywood rumor that fans are clinging to out of nostalgia? Let's pull back the curtain and explore the truth behind Pretty Woman 2, 2025. When Pretty Woman hit theaters in 1990, it wasn't just another romantic comedy. It was lightning in a bottle. Julia Roberts, then a rising star, became an overnight icon with her role as Vivian, the upbeat and bold woman whose life changed after meeting Edward, a wealthy businessman played by Richard Gere. Their unlikely love story became a modern fairy tale. The movie shattered box office expectations, earning nearly $500 million worldwide, and left a lasting mark on pop culture. But here's the thing, stories like Pretty Woman aren't supposed to need a sequel. The charm of the original was its ending. The limo, the flowers, the rooftop rescue, everything wrapped up in a way that felt complete, like the fairy tale was meant to end there. And yet, decades later, people are still asking what happened next. Did Vivian and Edward live happily ever after? Did their love survive the reality beyond the fairy tale ending? This curiosity has kept the idea of a sequel alive for years. Over time, whispers of Pretty Woman 2 have surfaced, only to disappear again. There were rumors in the late 90s, quiet speculation in the early 2000s, and more recently, fan theories popping up online about how Netflix might finally revive it. Streaming platforms have built their reputations on giving audiences what they crave: revivals, reboots, and sequels that tap into nostalgia. From Gilmore Girls to Fuller House, Netflix has shown it isn't afraid to bring back stories people thought were finished. And that's where the possibility of Pretty Woman 2 enters the spotlight. If any studio were to pull off such a risky move, Netflix is the perfect candidate. They have the platform, the audience, and most importantly, the global reach to take a classic Hollywood love story and reintroduce it to younger viewers who may have never seen the original. Imagine Pretty Woman not just as a film of the past, but as a franchise that bridges generations. But here's the question we must ask. Is it possible to capture lightning in a bottle twice? Fans often dream of seeing Julia Roberts and Richard Gere reunite, but Hollywood has taught us that sequels to beloved classics rarely deliver the same magic. Think about it, some sequels end up tarnishing the memory of the original, while others surprise us by expanding the story in unexpected ways. Could Pretty Woman 2 fall into the first category, or could it rise above the skepticism and truly become Netflix's next big revival? Before we get to the truth about the rumored sequel, we need to understand why this particular film holds such a special place in people's hearts. Because that's the key to understanding why so many fans both fear and hope for its return. When Pretty Woman premiered in 1990, it wasn't supposed to be the glossy, feel-good romance that we know today. In fact, the original script was much darker. The story of Vivian, a young woman caught in the struggles of survival, was intended to end on a tragic, realistic, no fairy tale limo, no happily ever after. But Hollywood made a choice. The studio reimagined the script into something brighter, something that would resonate with audiences who craved hope and optimism. And in doing so, they created one of the most successful romantic comedies of all time. Julia Roberts became a household name overnight. With her wide smile, natural charisma, and sharp wit, she turned Vivian into more than just a romantic lead. She made her iconic. Critics described her performance as pure star-making, and the Academy even nominated her for an Oscar. Richard Gere, already a star, found his career reignited by his role as Edward, the businessman with a guarded heart who learns to love again. Together, Roberts and Gere didn't just act out a romance. They embodied chemistry so natural that fans couldn't look away. The film struck a chord because it offered both fantasy and relatability. It gave audiences a Cinderella story, but one set against the backdrop of modern Los Angeles. Vivian wasn't a princess locked in a tower. She was a woman trying to find her place in a world that often underestimated her. Edward wasn't a knight in shining armor. He was flawed, lost in his own way, searching for meaning beyond money and power. Their connection felt impossible, yet believable. And that balance is why Pretty Woman still resonates decades later. The cultural impact was immediate. Fashion trends exploded: the red dress, the opera scene, even Vivian's street-style outfits became iconic. The soundtrack, featuring Roy Orbison's "Oh, Pretty Woman," became inseparable from the film's identity. Lines from the script like "big mistake," "big, huge," entered the pop culture dictionary. Beyond the laughs and swoons, the movie inspired endless debates about class, gender, and the power of transformation. Was it a simple love story, or a deeper commentary about second chances and breaking societal expectations? But perhaps the most powerful legacy of Pretty Woman is nostalgia. For many, the movie became a time capsule of the 1990s, a reminder of an era when romantic comedies ruled the box office, when love stories were allowed to be grand and unapologetically idealistic. Unlike today's often cynical romances, Pretty Woman dared to be hopeful. That hope, once captured on screen, never truly faded. Over the years, Hollywood has flirted with the idea of a sequel, but nothing ever materialized. Julia Roberts herself once said she wouldn't return for Pretty Woman 2, explaining that the story felt complete as it was. Richard Gere echoed that sentiment, suggesting that sometimes it's better to leave a fairy tale untouched. And maybe they were right. Sequels to classics rarely measure up. The fear of ruining something perfect always hung in the background, and yet the demand never went away. Fans revisited the film over and over again. It stayed alive in late-night TV reruns, DVD collections, and eventually streaming platforms. New generations discovered Vivian and Edward, and the magic continued. The idea of a sequel might have been dismissed by the actors, but audiences never stopped imagining what could come next. What if they married? What if they struggled? What if their love had to survive the real world beyond that rooftop kiss? That's why the whispers of Netflix reviving Pretty Woman hit differently. Unlike the scattered rumors of the past, Netflix has a track record. They've already revived beloved classics, giving them a second life for loyal fans and curious newcomers alike. For the first time, the idea of Pretty Woman 2 doesn't feel like a fantasy, it feels like a possibility. But here's the catch. The very legacy that makes the film so beloved is also what makes a sequel so risky. Pretty Woman is more than just a movie, it's a piece of cultural history. And when you try to rewrite history, you risk breaking it. So the question lingers in the air. Will Netflix dare to carry that weight? Or will Pretty Woman remain the untouchable jewel of Hollywood's romantic comedy crown? Asterisk. For years, whispers of Pretty Woman 2 floated around Hollywood like urban legends. A script draft here, a rumor of Julia Roberts being approached there, but nothing ever came of it. Until now. Netflix, the streaming giant known for resurrecting long-lost franchises, has quietly stirred the pot. Industry insiders claim that conversations about a revival are more serious than ever. But the question is, what form would Pretty Woman 2 even take in 2025? Some believe Netflix is chasing a simple recipe: nostalgia plus star power equals global success. Revivals like Fuller House, Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life, and that 90s show prove that audiences love to revisit old favorites. The formula is clear. Take a story everyone already knows, sprinkle in the original cast if possible, and build a modern twist around it. For Netflix, Pretty Woman is a goldmine waiting to be reopened. But unlike a sitcom or a family drama, this is a love story. And love stories carry fragile magic. Imagine the possibilities. A continuation that reunites Edward and Vivian decades later, perhaps married, perhaps estranged, perhaps navigating life as parents. Would the film lean into the complications of marriage, showing what happily ever after really looks like when the limo drives away and real life begins? Or would it introduce a younger generation, maybe their daughter, caught between privilege and struggle, echoing the same themes of love and transformation that define the original? These ideas excite some fans, but terrify others, because here's the truth: not everyone wants their fairy tale tampered with. For many, Pretty Woman is sacred. A sequel risks breaking the illusion. Hollywood has a history of disappointing sequel stories that try to recapture The magic of the original but collapse under the weight of expectation. Remember Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights? Or the much-debated Sex and the City 2. Both serve as cautionary tales. Fans fear Pretty Woman 2 could fall into the same trap, taking a beloved film and reducing it to another disposable cash grab. Still, the rumor mill keeps spinning. Some reports suggest Julia Roberts has been approached for a cameo rather than a leading role, passing the torch to a younger actress who might carry the franchise forward. Others hint that Richard Gere could return in a more limited capacity, perhaps as a mentor figure rather than a romantic lead. The idea of a generational handoff is tempting. It allows Netflix to use the credibility of the original cast while building a fresh narrative that younger audiences can connect with. But would audiences accept that? Part of what made Pretty Woman so enduring was the lightning-in-a-bottle chemistry between Roberts and Gere. Without that dynamic front and center, would a sequel even feel like Pretty Woman? Or would it simply be a new movie with a borrowed name? Another possibility is the reboot approach. Rather than continuing the story, Netflix could reimagine it for the modern world. A new Vivian, a new Edward, a new Los Angeles. Picture a story about love in the digital age, dating apps, social media fame, and the blurred lines between authenticity and performance. It could work, but it would also invite fierce criticism. After all, how do you replace Julia Roberts in a role that defined her career? How do you recast Richard Gere's suave intensity? The risk of backlash is enormous. Still, Netflix thrives on risks. Their business model is built on conversation, on keeping audiences talking. A Pretty Woman revival, whether a sequel or a reboot, would dominate headlines, fuel endless debate, and guarantee millions of curious clicks. Even those who swear they'd never watch would tune in, if only to see what Netflix dared to do. And that's exactly what the streaming giant wants. Attention. So, is Pretty Woman 2 really happening? The truth is slippery. Some industry insiders say the project is in early talks, while others dismiss it as wishful thinking. Netflix itself has remained silent, neither confirming nor denying. But silence in Hollywood often means something is brewing. One thing is certain: if Pretty Woman 2 arrives in 2025, it will be more than just another revival. It will be a test. A test of whether nostalgia can survive reinvention. A test of whether audiences truly want the stories they grew up with to continue, or whether some love stories are better left untouched. And that's where the real tension lies. Will Netflix deliver a modern fairy tale for a new generation, or will they risk tarnishing one of cinema's brightest jewels? Asterisk, the story of Pretty Woman has always lived in two places on the silver screen, where Vivian and Edward's love story unfolded, and in the hearts of millions who carried that fairy tale with them long after the credits rolled. That's why the whispers of Pretty Woman 2 are so powerful. They tug at the part of us that still wants to believe in magic, even when we know the real world rarely works that way. So, what is the truth about Netflix's rumored revival? The truth is, it exists in a fragile space between possibility and speculation. No official announcement has been made, no trailer has dropped, and no casting calls have been confirmed. And yet the buzz is undeniable. Hollywood doesn't let go of a property this valuable without at least testing the waters. Netflix, with its deep pockets and hunger for cultural dominance, knows exactly how much attention a sequel or even a reboot would generate. In a world where content is king, reviving Pretty Woman is like holding a golden crown. But here's the dilemma. Do we really want this crown to be worn again? A sequel could explore fascinating territory. It could show us what happens when fairy tales meet reality. Did Edward and Vivian's love survive the storms of life? Did their worlds truly merge, or did the differences between them pull them apart? Those questions linger unanswered for 35 years. A revival could finally give us closure, or it could destroy the illusion that kept the story timeless. For fans, it's a gamble. On one hand, the excitement of seeing Julia Roberts and Richard Gere share the screen again is irresistible. Even a cameo would send shockwaves through pop culture. On the other hand, many fear that the magic will vanish the moment the curtain rises on a sequel. Because once you show what happens after Happily Ever After, you can never put the genie back in the bottle. You can't unsee the cracks in the fairy tale. That's why so many people feel conflicted. Nostalgia makes us long for more, but history reminds us that more doesn't always mean better. Sequels often stumble because they chase the past instead of creating something new. And Pretty Woman is more than just a movie, it's a memory. It's laughter, tears, hope, and romance all wrapped into one. To tamper with that is to tamper with people's emotions, yet there's also a small but real chance, that Pretty Woman 2 could surprise us. Netflix has the resources to craft a story that honors the original while reimagining it for the present. If handled with care, it could explore themes of growth, second chances, and love in a world that looks very different from 1990. Imagine Vivian and Edward as mentors, guiding a younger generation through their own struggles with identity, love, and class. Imagine a film that doesn't just repeat the past, but builds on it. Done right, it could be powerful. So, what should we believe? The truth is that no one knows for certain, not yet. Hollywood is a place of rumors, half-truths, and carefully planted leaks. The safest verdict right now is this: Pretty Woman 2 remains a dream in motion, neither confirmed nor denied, but very much alive in the cultural imagination. And perhaps that's the point. Maybe the real magic of Pretty Woman isn't just the movie itself, but the way it continues to inspire debate decades later. As 2025 approaches, we'll likely hear more. Maybe Netflix will make the bold announcement fans have been waiting for. Or maybe the rumors will fade, leaving the original untouched, forever sealed as a classic. Either way, the conversation itself proves the power of this story. After all these years, we're still asking what if? So here's the closing thought. If Pretty Woman 2 does arrive, it won't just be another movie on Netflix. It will be a test of time, a measure of how much we truly value nostalgia, and a reminder that some fairy tales live forever, whether or not they're ever rewritten. And now, the question turns to you. Would you watch Pretty Woman 2 if it premiered tomorrow? Or do you believe that some love stories are best left untouched? Drop your thoughts below, because in the end, this isn't just Hollywood's decision. It's ours too.